Hi, everyone. Bill Rentschler in the 1011 Now streaming studio. Hope everyone's having a nice Monday afternoon. Mondays is when we get to hang out with Josh Planos with the Better Business Bureau and talk all things consumer protection. Josh, we have a couple of topics today, but first, how was your weekend? We missed each other last week. How have things been?
They've been good, Bill. I feel like something has been missing in my life for about 2 weeks, but I'm happy to feel like we're back. We're back on schedule. No complaints. The weather has been fantastic, as we were talking about earlier. That might change, but yeah, happy with how Nebraska looks these days.
Yeah, we can only kind of take a short breath before Mother Nature is going to throw another curveball at us. Looks like it could get a little stormy tomorrow night, but no blizzards in the forecast, so that's the good news.
Silver linings everywhere.
All right, well, Josh, we're talking a couple of different topics today. One of those being TSA precheck scams. This is something that we've seen locally. Here, someone kind of got involved with this up in Omaha. Can you kind of take us through it, what you guys know, and what folks need to watch out for?
Yeah, so I do want to preface this by saying this was a singular report. The reality is a lot of times when there are scams that are reported to us, the actual impact is exponentially worse than that because of, for many reasons, people don't come forward with their experiences. But this luckily was reported to us within the past month. So this is someone who presumably flies out of Edley Airfield a good deal. They like the idea of bypassing lines, as many of us, many of us who have ever been in a line, not had TSA pre-check, have certainly thought long and hard about how to access that opportunity. And I believe that this was a situation where someone did, in fact, take the next step. They did a cursory search online. They saw an opportunity to apply for TSA pre-check. They jumped on one of the first search results, went to a site, provided a whole lot of biographical information, payment information, and signed up for a TSA pre-check service that doesn't exist. TSA.gov, I believe, is the official URL. This was something that was an unofficial site. So they did lose out on roughly $150 in the process. But they also now probably pass their information to someone who might not be interested in doing right by them, might be interested in using that information for other means. And so I credit this person for coming forward with their experience and reporting it. But this is something that I think really does show the spectrum of the scams that we monitor, right? I mean, Bill, you and I talk about romance fraud a lot in the month of February. We talk about animal adoption fraud. There's also fraud that impacts things like government services, like TSA PreCheck, and things that help you bypass lines in an airport, right? So it really is quite the spectrum that we are monitoring, and quite the spectrum, sadly, that consumers are experiencing day to day in 2025.
Yeah, and like you mentioned at the very beginning there, unfortunately, if one person comes is that's the only report that we have, it's likely impacted quite a few more people than that. They just haven't reported it. And whether it's they went all the way down the line like this person did and did give over some money, or realized halfway through, a lot of people kind of get caught up in these things.
Yeah, and I think this is a run-of-the-mill experience that I think a lot of us are having with spring break. Travel is top of mind for a lot of consumers, not just in Nebraska, but around the country. And it's something that we really have a great deal of trust that we associate with some of these browsers that we rely upon. And there is a real assumption that some of that real estate, that high performing real estate, the first three, four search results that you get when you Google search something, when you use whatever browser you prefer, that there is some legitimacy behind those opportunities. And sadly, for some, those are purchased, right? I mean, usually there's a sponsored label associated with that result. But many of us are quick to kind of look past that, or maybe not consider what that actually means. That means somebody wrote a check, right? That means somebody provided payment for that real estate. It doesn't necessarily mean that is the opportunity that's going to take you exactly where you want to go. And so, slowing down, I think in this case, this person likely used their mobile device to, see this search and this transaction all the way through. People, use mobile devices safely all the time, but there are a lot of hurdles that are associated with it because of the abridged nature of what it is that you can see on your mobile device versus, say, your desktop. Right? You don't see the full URL, and in this case, that person did include in their report that they later learned it wasn't an HTTPS URL. Very small difference, but a difference that makes a lot of difference to the person experiencing the scam.
Yeah, and again, just making sure you're on that, whether it's HTTPS or the .gov part of the website. Again, just slowing down and checking that URL a lot of times is going to filter out a lot of the scams that you might come across. But then the other thing also, Josh, I know you talk about this all the time. If you're going to hand over some money, do it in a way that, you have a little bit of protection on the back end if something does turn out to be phony.
Yes, unfortunately, in this case, this consumer did not use a credit card, so they weren't able to dispute those charges. You could understand why a scammer would have no interest in providing you any sort of safety mechanism when they're looking to pull people into their trap. Right. That's why so regularly things like cryptocurrency or prepaid debit cards or peer-to-peer payment methods, wire transfers are so commonly requested by scammers. It's because they know that that's an advantage for them. That doesn't give you an out when you slow things down and consider, well, maybe, maybe I don't feel 100% confident in this transaction. That might seem like a really small thing, but it really does make all the difference in the world when you're trying to, unwind that process, right? At least with credit cards, you can dispute those charges because you do have built-in fraud protection that's sadly just not abundantly available through a lot of other modes of payment.
Josh, segueing to our next topic, because you kind of mentioned it a little bit there, but we're talking about cryptocurrency in our next topic, and I would say a good step forward, but Governor Pillen signed, it was LB 609 into law. This would have been back earlier this month, but this is a law that is creating protections from cryptocurrency fraud. Again, unfortunately, we see almost weekly, whether it's here in the state or somewhere, nationally, folks losing out on thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in cryptocurrency fraud.
Yeah, the Controllable Electronic Fraud Prevention Act is really an essential step. It is just a step, but it is a very important step that does protect consumers. I give a lot of credit to Senator Elliot Bostar, AARP Nebraska in particular, worked very, very actively to get this opportunity in front of our organization, in front of law enforcement to testify on behalf of it. It's something that my understanding is it will take effect in September. And what you can think about this as is a safety mechanism that is applied to the crypto kiosks that we see in and around convenience stores. They look very, very similar to run-of-the-mill ATMs. But what this bill will do is it'll require operators managing them to be vetted. It will require daily transaction limits. There will be required warning notices placed on the devices themselves to raise awareness about some of the potential scams and the reality that this is a rising mode of payment and frauds of all kinds, right? When we talk a lot about cryptocurrency, we talk regularly about this being an investment related con. So you invest in this speculative asset and you can get an enormous return on that investment. And while those scams are happening, with these ATMs, the cryptocurrency has really become something of a vehicle for paying out a variety of different scams. So not necessarily people looking to get rich, but people looking to remedy a situation. So I need this amount of money because otherwise you're going to be arrested. And I need that amount of money sent through a Bitcoin ATM. That is a lot of what is reported to us and what is reported to law enforcement in our region. This law will also require transaction receipts to be provided, which will improve something of the traceability of some of these interactions. Fee caps will be implemented to prevent things like excessive charges, and then the operators themselves are going to be required to provide refunds for transactions identified as fraudulent, just like credit card providers do. So again, these are just their steps, but they are important ones, particularly when we think about what is actually on the rise and being reported to those in the scam prevention space.
It's almost kind of, Josh, like the new age version of kind of the credit card skimmer, which again, obviously, still an issue every now and then. But I've seen these cryptocurrency ATMs pop up in gas stations and convenience stores, and I mean, they're new, and I mean, not everyone necessarily knows what they are, and it's really easy to probably lose out on a couple $100 because you don't know what you're doing. And so again, like you said, these are first steps, but really basic things that when this new technology comes around, you don't necessarily know you need right away, but pretty quickly it comes clear that you need some laws and rules around them like we have now.
I spoke with a man named Dave in Omaha in August of last year, and Dave essentially spent $190,000 thinking that he was protecting his retirement account. And Dave was manipulated into withdrawing. The most he could withdraw from his account was $30,000 at a time. So 190,000 divided by 30, right? He had to do this a few times. And we're talking about literal cash in a paper bag. And he brought these paper bags into convenience stores and inserted the money into these Bitcoin ATMs and sent that money to a scammer, right? And throughout the entire process, he was never stopped. People saw, evidently it takes about 30 minutes to dispense 30 grand in cash into a Bitcoin ATM. And he did this multiple times. And there was never a warning placed on the device itself. The convenience store clerk never stopped him. And I asked Dave after if he felt like, if something like a placard would be useful in terms of if he could put himself back in that moment, if it would have deterred him even slightly. And he said he really did think it would. He certainly took accountability for the decisions that he made, but he didn't really see any warning sign anywhere because there wasn't anything literally placed on the device. So that is, again, it's a small step. But if we can prevent one person from going through that, that is a necessary step that I think a lot of us would be willing to agree needs to be taken.
Yeah, no, 100%. If just one person can be helped, then it's definitely worth it. Again, that bill was passed 48-0 out of the Nebraska Unicameral. So again, good to see that some guardrails are going up around some of those things. And we talk a lot about cryptocurrency and things like this. It can be a very good thing. It's not all bad news when it comes to it. But again, just one of those things you got to be extra careful.
Without a doubt, and it's a confusing space. And I think even those who really believe in cryptocurrency probably believe that a certain amount of knowledge is required or should be required to allow people to have an enjoyable experience with the opportunity. I don't think a lot of people are, unless you're trying to scam people, are interested in just people come one, come all to this new opportunity that you don't fully understand, right? I think there needs to be some literacy involved. And that's where even just having a general idea that this device has been used in the past to perpetrate fraud is of benefit to someone who might be kind of going through the motions, might be in something of a trance when they're going through this process. Just like we have with gift cards. When you buy gift cards, typically there are now safety mechanisms in place that prevent you from running up $5,000 in gift cards at a Hy-Vee, right? There are safety mechanisms in place, and I think this is a space that is deserving of those.
100%. Josh, a couple of good topics for us to talk about today. Is there any other topics you want to make sure you squeeze in here as we round out the month of March?
I think spring break is still top of mind for a lot of folks. Everyone seems to have a different week in which they get the opportunity to go on a trip. Make sure that trip is real. Make sure that just because you see a wonderfully discounted rate and you feel the sudden urge to take your family to the Caribbean, that opportunity could realistically be available for that price. Even just doing that is a benefit, and even just doing that will avoid a lot of what is reported to us.
Awesome. All right. Well, Josh, we appreciate your time as always. Thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, again, that's Josh Planos with the Better Business Bureau. We always appreciate his time. Talk to him most every Monday, again, about the kind of latest headlines when it comes to consumer protection. So we'll look forward to talking to him again next week. In the meantime, appreciate everyone for tuning in and for watching. Again, keep tuned to 1011 both on air and online for all of your latest news, weather, and sports headlines. Hope everyone has a nice Monday.
1011 News is everywhere. Download our smart TV